Problem 2. In figure, a potential difference V equal to 75 volt is applied across the capacitor arrangement with capacitances C1 equal to 10 microfarad, C2 equal to 5 microfarad, and C3 equal to 15 microfarad. Now we have to answer for 9 questions here. Before we answer these 9 questions, first of all, let's find the equivalent capacitance for these 3 capacitor arrangement. If you see this arrangement, we have C1 and C2 are in parallel. C1 and C2 are in parallel. So that means the C equivalent for these two capacitor, which is equal to C1 plus C2. So this equivalent capacitance only for C1 and C2. Now we have to combine. Once you find the answer for the C1 and C2, it is clubbed as one capacitor. Now after that, what will happen? It will exactly series with C3. That means the diagram here, after we club these C1 and C2, how the diagram will change? The diagram will be changed as this one for C1 and C2. After you make the capacitance in parallel for C1 and C2, it will club as one capacitor, and then it will exactly series with C3. So now in between these 2 points, how much voltage we are going to apply? We are going to apply V is equal to 75 volt. So that means C1 and C2 parallel equivalents exactly or series with C3. So now better we can just consider everything, all 3 capacitors together. By that, if you find the answer for C equivalent for all the 3 capacitors, so we can just go for direct answer. So C equivalent for all the 3, which is equal to 1 over C1 plus 1 over C3 plus 1 over this value, because we just clubbed together, so C1 plus C2. Now when you remodify this equation, we will get the answer for 1 over C equivalent as C3 multiplied by C1 plus C2. In the top we will get C1 plus C2 plus C3, and this is for 1 over C equivalent. Now we have to take the reciprocal for getting the C equivalent capacitance. So C equivalent capacitance, which is equal to C3 multiplied by C1 plus C2 divided by C1 plus C2 plus C3. So this is the equivalent capacitance for these 3 capacitor arrangement. Now we have to go back to the circuit diagram one more time, and here we have to find what is the potential, because we have to answer for 9 questions. So we take C1 and C2. If you take C1 and C2, C1 and C2 are exactly parallel. That means in between the C1 and C2, the potential across C1 and the potential across C2 will be same. So we have to write here. So C1 and C2 are parallel. Therefore, V1, which is equal to V2. Why? Because when capacitors are arranged in parallel, the potential across each capacitor, that capacitor should be the same. So here V1, which is equal to V2, we can write these as Q over C1 plus C2. Why? Because we consider only V1 and C1 and C2. Now this Q I can write as we already know, C, which is equal to Q over V. Therefore Q, which is equal to C multiplied by V. So here this C, I have to consider the equivalent capacitance for all capacitor. Once you place these equivalent capacitors in this place, we will get the answer for potential V1 and V2. So how I can write V1, which is equal to V2, which is equal to the C equivalent capacitance multiplied by V divided by C1 plus C2. Now what I am going to do, I am going to take the C equivalent capacitance. So this equation, I am going to take this equation and I am going to substitute that equation in this place. So once you substitute, let's see what we are going to get. So V1, which is equal to V2. So in this place, we have to substitute the C equivalent capacitance. So C3 multiplied by C1 plus C2 multiplied by V divided by C1 plus C2 plus C3, and also one more C1 plus C2 we have here, because all this part is our equivalent capacitance. Clear? Now you can see we can cancel C1 plus C2 here. So what are the remaining terms we have here? V1 which is equal to V2 which is equal to V multiplied by C3 divided by C1 plus C2 plus C3. And now we have all the values. So let's substitute the values one by one. The potential across the capacitor, how much potential we are going to apply across these capacitors? We applied 75 volt, right? You can see across all these capacitors we applied 75 volt. So in this place of V, I have to substitute 75. So the voltage we are going to apply here is 75 volt, and C1 takes the value of 10 microfarad, and C2 takes the value of 5 microfarad, and C3 takes the value of 15 microfarad. So one more time, we will cross check our value of C1, C2, C3. So 10, 5, 15, right? So let's go back to the equation question. So 10, 5, 15, it's right. So now I'm going to substitute this value here for getting the answer for V1. And once you got V1, it will be same for V2. So now I'm going to substitute the value 75 multiplied by C3 is 15 microfarad. So 15 multiplied by 10 power minus 6 divided by 10 plus 5 plus 15, because everything, all three are micro. So I can just multiply by 10 power minus 6. So let's see what will be the answer. So here I got the answer for V1, which is equal to V2, is equal to 37.5. So that means V1 and V2 takes the same value. Why? Because V1 and V2 are arranged in parallel. Now we have to find the answer for V3. So we have to go back to the circuit diagram. For V3, what we have to do, the voltage across, which is equal to this voltage, that means the voltage across C3 plus voltage, because here these two capacitors are in parallel. So potential between C1 and C2 will be the same. C1, V1 and V2 are same. So I can write this equation. The potential across the entire capacitor is V, which is equal to V3 plus either V1 or V2. That's up to us, right? Or if you want to substitute V2 here, same. Because why? V1 which is equal to V2, I'm going to take any one of that. If you want to take V2, no issue here, because we know V1 which is equal to V2. So I just take the equation like this for getting the answer for V3. So I'm going to write this equation one more time here. The total potential across the entire three capacitor, which is equal to V3 plus V1. Now we are going to find the answer for V3. So V3, which is equal to V minus V1, and V is 75 volt minus V1, because V1 and V2 takes the same value, 37.5. So here I got the answer as again 37.5 volt. So that means clear. So this is the answer. So now we got all 3 volt, right? So let's rewrite V1, V2, V3, V1 and V2 and V3 all takes the same value. So now we have to find the answer for the first question. So V1, which is equal to 37.5 volt, V2 also here 37.5 volt, and V3 also 37.5 volt, right? Now by using this, and better I can write C1, C2, C3 one more time. C1 and C2 and C3. What's the value of C1? 10 microfarad, which already gave in the question, and C2 5 microfarad, and C3 15 microfarad. Clear? Okay, by using this, we can find the answer for charge 1, 2, 3. So Q1, which is equal to C1 multiplied by V1, Q2, which is equal to C2 multiplied by V2, and Q3, which is equal to C3 multiplied by V3. So let's we substitute the answer. Let's we substitute the value to get the answer for Q1, Q2, Q3. So C1 10 multiply 10 power minus 6 multiply with 37.5. So here I got the answer as 3.75 multiply 10 power minus 4 coulomb. And here C2 5 multiply 10 power minus 6 multiply with 37.5. I got the answer as 1.87 multiply 10 power minus 4. I will cross check one more time. 10 to the power of minus 6 multiply 37.5. Yes, right. And then the third value C3 is 15 microfarad multiplied by 37.5. So 15 10 power minus 6 multiplied by 37.5. I got the answer here as 5.63. 5.63 multiply 10 power minus 4 coulomb. Clear? So now we can go back to the question, because now the remaining problems will be very easy for us. So you can see the first question, we have to find the answer for Q3, right? Q3 just before we found as 5.63. So that means the answer we already got. So I can show you here. What is the value for Q3? The value for Q3 here is this answer. That is our first question. Clear? And then let's we go back to the second question. In the second question, so what we find? If I have to find the answer for the potential difference across V3, that already we found as 37.5, right? 37.5. So we already got the answer here as V3. So here you can see V3 is equal to 37. That is the answer for the second question. And third question, I have to see what is in the third question. The third question, we have to find the energy stored. So energy stored here is, again, we know that we have to write the formula for energy stored. U3, which is equal to half C3 V3 square. We already have the value for C3 and V3. Once you substitute, you will get the answer for C3. So you can proceed by yourself, because the main information we already found. The main information in these questions are V1, V2, V3, Q1, Q2, Q3. Once you find V1, V2, V3 and C1, C2, C3 and Q1, Q2, Q3, the rest of the questions are very easy. So that means once you substitute C3 and V3, we already got the answer. You will get the answer for the third question. What is our fourth question? Answer for Q1. Answer for Q1 we already got here. So I'll just go back to the answer for Q1. What's the answer for Q1 here? You can see the answer for Q1 is 3.575 multiply 10 power minus 4. So that is the answer for the fourth question. So let's see the fifth question. What is the fifth question? Fifth question, V1. As we already find the answer for V1, V2, V3 as 37.5. So that is the answer for the fifth question. And then answer for sixth question, U1. That means the energy stored in capacitor. what you have to do, you have to use the same formula, but this time you have to write U1, which is equal to half multiplied by C1 multiplied by V1 square. So you have the value of C1 and V1. Once you substitute, you will get the answer for the sixth question. Clear? Seventh question, we are going to find charge 2. That's we already found in the last part, because Q1, Q2, Q3 we already carried out. That means this question, the main informations are C1, C2, C3, Q1, Q2, Q3, and V1, V2, V3. Once you find these 9 information, the rest of the problems are very easy for you. Clear? So I don't want to do all the questions here, because the main explanation I already gave, so you can do the same thing for the rest of the things. So this is the procedure. Actually, this question, once you solve this type of question, you will get the entire information. You will know the clear idea about how to solve these type of question. Clear? So the main thing, if you have the circuit diagram, the main information for solving all these 9 questions, only from 9 important thing. First three, C1, C2, C3 value you need, and then its potential V1, V2, V3 you need, and then the charge stored Q1, Q2, Q3 you need. Once you have all these 9 information, solving these 9 problems are very easy. So this is the explanation for this question. Thank you.